Send them the link. Send them the link.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Podolskiy Method podcast. We have a special guest here today, but I'll go through my quick usual introductions. We have I'm Ilya. I'm the creator and your host for the Podolskiy Method podcast. I'm a certified public accountant. I run a skate sharpening shop called Sharp Skate New York, and I also a level 4 coach and lead hockey instructor for the Junior Rangers program. And today I have some wonderful guests coming back to the show. I have Tim Turk here with me. Um, and as you guys remember, Tim Turk is an NHL shooting coach for over 20 years. Has spent, coached so many different athletes and so many different people. And we have Dan Blackburn coming on. He's a little bit late, but he should be here any moment from, the CEO of NTC Hockey, author, speaker, and coach. If you haven't heard the previous podcast, go back, listen to them. They were absolutely wonderful. And so, Tim, I'm going to kick it over to you. Just, tell people how you're doing, what you've been up to for the last couple of weeks since our last show. And I'll send Dan another invite here.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Ilya. Appreciate it. Man, guys, I really look forward to, first of all, I don't know if you guys get the opportunity. I don't know if I was in the green room, whatever, when the introduction was coming on, but he plays this music on, and I was like, the music in the intro, it can't help you to get even more excited than you already are to be on the podcast, because it's like, I bop in my head. I'm like, oh yeah. Like hopefully, Ilya, hopefully you didn't have to pay for that to get because that's freaking, I paid for it. That's so cool that and in an introduction to these types of things, that's like kicking off the energy level that we want to give to everybody that's out there, and when Dan jumps on, I sent him the link too. He'll be here any minute, but when he jumps on, it's going to be really challenging to match his energy level. So like, he's just unbelievable. And the funny thing is, when you introduced Dan, I was saying to Ilya before we fired it up here, everybody, that Dan and I have known each other for over 20 years, and we've been exchanging athletes for a long time, or we've worked with the same athletes for many years, and now we're going to try and come together to create all that much more skill development as a whole athlete together, and with other specialties that we plan on working on as well, just going forward in the future. So, man, I can't thank you enough for having me again. When you do a podcast session or information session, or you're a guest somewhere, and then all of a sudden you get reinvited, it's just so hard. Oh yeah, okay. So look who pops in here. So hey, Dano. So I was just saying to everyone out there that the music. You missed the intro. You missed Ilya's intro. The music. I was bopping my head, and I was like, oh man, like I'm coming with energy, and then I hear the music, I get more energy. Then I'm telling everybody that you're coming on. I'm like, we got to match your energy.
Were you singing?
No, I wasn't singing. No. This voice is not for the birds. No. But I was telling everybody you're late because you're probably doing the 3 S's: the shit, the shower, and the shave.
Yeah, well, I missed the shave clearly, and I won't comment on the first one, but I haven't showered yet today, so I might be one. I might be 1 for 3. What's up, guys?
So I just introduced myself and said that you and I have known each other for many years, and we've been working with the same athletes, and now there's some good stuff coming down the pipe where we're gonna kind of come together and help each other, and all that much more, to bring more ammunition to those athletes out there, more energy and ammunition going forward.
I love it. Yeah, I think that the ammunition is a good analogy, right? Because there's so much information being sprayed out there to our athletes right now, and some is good and some is not good, right? And I talk a lot with our athletes about going past the storm, right? We're for 23 years, I've been teaching hockey players the skills, the habits, the rituals to building mental resiliency, to having the winner's mindset and being successful both on and off the ice. And I preach that a lot. Look, I want to help hockey players win every major trophy and get to the top of every podium they dream of. And I want them to have uber successful lives. Like I want them to get up in the morning, whether they're 9 or 19 or they're 99. And I want them to feel so effing good about who they are. And so that's what we teach. And on that path, every single day, we stand at our point of demarcation. And to one side is what we see as the storm, all the negativity, all the worry, all the fear, all of the oh no's, the what ifs, the oh my gods. And on the other side is opportunity, is looking for the gold nuggets. And you're literally wearing the same clothes, standing in the same spot, standing underneath the same sun or rain or whatever, environmental or meteorological conditions you're facing. And you get to choose. Are you bracing for the storm, or are you stepping out into the abundance, into the opportunity? And that's the choice we get to make every single day.
Sorry, Ilya. Like, I just wanted to thank him for spearheading this, this podcast to get information out there, to see who's at the top of the podiums, who's at that building that pyramid, like just to help the players to follow along up there. And I can't thank him enough to have us on here, to have me on here, man. It's just, I was saying that, like, you're a guest on a podcast and you get re-invited. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, this is unbelievable. But I'll let Ilya was going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think you guys are both amazing. I mean, I've been obviously following you guys for a long time before I started this podcast. And one of the things that, like I was telling you, Tim, about watching you guys talk last week and then watching the Panthers game and seeing, how they, do exactly as you teach online, and they in the NHL, they're doing exactly the moves that you're showing on the screen on my laptop. It was just unbelievable. I was like, that is such a perfect example.
So I got a beef with Dan about that. So we're talking, the week before. He's like, "Hey, Turkey, we got this plan, and I'm feeling so, like, inside. I'm feeling so warm about and energetic, and it's so challenging, like I said, to match Dan's, not just the knowledge of what he wants to do with the athletes, but his energy and delivery, right?" And then, so he's like, Turkey's like, "Yeah, come." And I'm like, "So what, is this a scripted thing, Dan?" He's like, no, this is, we're just going to, I'm like, "That's the best part." Like that. And then and I'm like, "So you're going to interview me, right?" He goes, yeah, I'm going to ask some questions. So then during the intro, like just before the intro comes on and he hits the switch like you did with all the music, and I'm like that, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to go." He's going to ask me questions. And then he's like, "Okay, Turkey, as soon as I'll introduce you, and then you can take it from there."
I want to throw you right under that.
And I'm like, I thought I was getting interviewed. I thought it was good. I'm like, so Turkey throws on the improvisation hat. He puts the hat on. He's like, okay, here we go. We got athletes in here, and they need to know why it's important for us as coaches, mentors, people that have the knowledge, that want to share it. And now it's time to give it to everybody.
So I do have questions for you that I wanted to ask and discuss. And actually, this is something that you guys kind of kicked off right off the bat. My first question is, there's an abundance of information now on the internet, but there's no focus. So it's very hard for parents and players to find focus on how to actually watch the game. I'm going to give you an example. I was at a tournament in Pittsburgh recently, last weekend, and one of the parents got mad because we were losing our game, and I think he wanted his kid to be more on the ice because he was one of the better players. But what I saw was that the kid took 7 penalties, and the kid didn't really generate much offense when he had the opportunities. So I wasn't going to punish my third line players who didn't allow a single goal. They didn't score, but they didn't allow a single goal. So to me, all 3 lines played. No, I didn't have to mention anybody. Everybody was in the game. it was the game, but I felt that everybody was presented with the opportunity. So my question is, how do we as coaches educate parents to assess the game, to watch the game and look at those little things rather than just, I want my kid on the ice?
Yeah, I'll go first on this, and I think that this is a parental as well as an athletic thing. I think that Ilya, you hit the nail on the head. You're looking at it through a lens as a coach, right? And I call it the three-pronged approach. You've got coach, developer. You've got parent, the guardian, the one writing the check when the kids are young, and then you got little Johnny or little Jackie who shows up with this ball of energy ready to go. And so it's really about getting all three of those people on side. And what you're talking about is there is this very clear focus, right? You talked about there isn't focus. I think there's such a clear focus on the scoreboard, on the game sheet, on what level you're at, on how many tournaments you're winning, on what crest do you have on your jacket or on your jersey. And look, those things are important. Like, those things are great. And yet those are not the barometers that we need to use or to follow to help players be successful. I mean, Turkey will talk about the NHL players that he's worked with. I can do the same. Like, the players that make it, and make it, to all your listeners and viewers, make it, put whatever, fill in the blank, right? Whatever that means to you. But the players that make it are the ones that are so focused on being the best they can be, on growing, on learning, on sometimes being the third line player that doesn't get on the ice in those situations. And what do you learn from that? What can you develop? What experiences can you grow from there? And using all of those to get to be the best player, like the best that you can be, not how many trophies you have in your trophy case. And I say to, I'll say to players all the time, and parents, ask them who their favorite player is. And they'll tell me, and I'll say, how many, what did they do in Pee Wee? What team did they play on? How many goals did they score? And most times the answer is like, I don't know. And I respond by saying, you're right, because who cares? What matters is, what did you learn through those moments? So a long-winded answer, Ilya, to you, like, if there's a parent, I'm saying, listen, what do you want to get out of your son or daughter? And where do you want them to be? Where do you want them to be a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now? We do it in business, right? We do quarterly and annual and semi-annual planning, and we do our goal setting. And yet when it comes to parenting athletes, we throw that out the window. And so let's look at in theory, let's look at a plan. Where do we want Susie or where do we want Bobby to be in a month or in 3 months or a year from now? And let's map a development plan to them so that they can achieve. And let's hope they lose a ton of hockey games and they lose battles and they get stripped of the puck and they wear the goat horns and all that negativity. I hope they get all the upside too. But no one talks about, I hope they get all of those experiences, because like I said before, those are the moments we get to teach our kids, where do we see the opportunity or where do we see the storm? And what you're talking about with that parent is they are looking at the storm. They're looking at, my kid's not getting enough. How come? That's not fair. He's better than. That's all the storm. Instead of looking at the opportunity of, where can we go and where can we grow from here?
Awesome. Tim,
absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to follow something like that as a comparison to just where things need to be and how they need to be attained, through purpose and planning. And one of the things that has been coming up lately, and like Dan reiterates this quite a bit about skills and proper habits, and then this R word called ritual. And there's another R word out there that I have an issue with, and I'd like to open it up to you guys and say, like, there's rituals versus routines, or routines versus rituals, and the athlete gets caught up in a routine because that's what they see everyone's doing. They see that they got to go to the gym to get stronger and faster. They see that they have to go on the ice and get puck touches. They see that they got to shoot, like in their backyard. But they're just doing it as a routine. It's like, okay, I'm without purpose or making it a ritual where it means something, where they're getting out there And when they have the plan of what they need to do with the parent support, like there's parents out there that they don't have an athletic background. It could be an immigration thing. It doesn't matter, but they don't have the knowledge. They don't it's not that they don't care to gain the knowledge. They see that little Billy or Johnny or little Susie is passionate about. They love what they're doing. They just don't know how to provide sometimes. So it's our job to educate not just the athlete that's 16, whatever, all the way up to 66. We gotta educate the parents and the coaches and ourselves and keep evolving so that we can give the right things to the right person.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Tim. I teach this a lot. We big part of what I do is yes, there's the physical part of the game, and that's critical. That's why I'm aligned with guys like Tim Turk. He was on our call, on our group coaching call last week, and he was giving tips and how does little figurines on the screen is showing things. And players in our group are messaging in our group chat like, oh my God, the thing Tim taught me, that physical thing changed my shot already, my accuracy, the pace of my puck. And so the physical part is critical. But to Tim's point, the difference, and I wrote this down, the difference between routines and rituals, routines are unintentional. Routines are just going on in the background. You just do what you do. A ritual is intentional. The ritual is taking the wheel and saying, I'm going to steer this bus in the direction that I need it to go for me because that's where I need to go next, versus being a passenger on the bus and allowing someone else or allowing the system to navigate where you go and then trying to figure out how you put the pieces together when you get off the bus, wherever it decides to let you off.
That's so wonderful. That was actually one of the things I wanted to talk about is routine or preparation for the game. And I'm really glad, Tim, you brought that up, because I think that, it's something that people don't recognize. But to me, that preparation is really where you kind of get mentally ready for the game. You take away those jitters or that fear that the game is coming, the nerves, right? Because you have like this ritual that you go through, and it helps you because it's consistent, right? So it's a great point. Thank you guys for bringing that up. Because I think it's so important when it comes to how you play the game and how you develop as an athlete.
Right? Are you getting feedback, Daniel? Are you getting feedback from Ilya?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm getting some feedback too. I guess he wants his mic up really high so everybody can hear him.
Let's see if that's all of it. Maybe it's one of the speakers.
Yeah, you have some sort of kickback there, so we're hearing you twice, but that's good because sometimes people need that repetition. They want to hear it more and more.
It's twice as nice, baby. Twice as nice.
That's it. But that's such a great, for me, on the mental side, when they say mental or they say mindful and stuff like that, you can't start. To me, in my personal opinion, it's hard to generate a motion pattern without the thought process. So it always starts in the mind, whether it's a physical thing, whether it's a reactionary thing or a thought process where you're trying to change. Like for me, I love it when I see a player in the middle of a motion when they're taking a shot and then they change their mind and do something else, or they're going for a certain target. And then it's like, oh man, I want to go that way instead. And it's noticeable when athletes do that, when they're in the motion and they need to adjust. And so if we're not giving them the right information for them to have that reaction or the agility or the mindset or the confidence to change something when they're in the middle of a motion pattern, then part of our job needs to be reevaluated so we can help with that.
Yeah, makes sense. So
absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? I love it. I think this is so great. Like, because Tim is coming from a place of the actual fundamentals. He's talking about shooting, and I'm thinking of Kucherov on Sunday night, right, on his what would have been his third goal, which the entire everybody in the building and everybody that's cheering for Florida is thinking what I'm thinking. Kucherov's got a one-timer, and he's going to rip it again. Goalie overcompensates, and what does he do? He does a slap pass to Braden Point, who's standing with a stick on the ice. And not to take away from Braden Point, but there's a lot of amateur hockey players that could stand right where 21 was standing with their stick on the ice. And if you're strong enough and you have it angled in the right spot, that puck's going to end up in the back of the net. And it's Kucherov's ability to change on the fly. But to Tim's point, that's not something he thought about or mapped into some mental programming, 9 minutes or 19 minutes or even 9 weeks before that shot. This is something that is a part of his psyche, his synapses. He's able to make these choices and decisions at such a rapid rate. And we as fans look at it as it's effortless. And it's so effortless. I say this to players all the time. It's so effortless that if you are not a real fan of the game, like of the nuances of the game, you don't even realize that he did that, right? You just think, oh, wow, he passed the puck and 21 scored. Yay, we won, right? Like it's that subtle, yet it's that pronounced. And so that's on the physical side, right? And on the mental and the emotional side, which thankfully, we're spending more time teaching. And so, think about it this way. We are hardwired with a belief system. It's what we've been taught by friends, by neighbors, by teammates, by experiences. We carry this around like baggage. And so everybody that's watching and listening, right? Think about your own ideology. What are the things you believe is possible? The house you live in, the life you live, the friends you surround yourself with, everything that you look around you have now is driven by your belief system. And so you show up to the rink or you show up in life and you're at this crossroads. Here's the start of the day. It's storm on the left side. It's opportunity on the right side. And everything you're about to do is driven by your belief system. The first thing is you have a thought. The thought is it's this filter through your belief systems of what is possible. From that thought, in that moment, you make a decision. And that decision tells you whatever it's going to tell you. And from that decision, you take action. Right? And this is like Kucherov passing a Braden Point. It's literally happening at like lightning speed. Your belief system is your filter. It's your baggage. You show up, you look at whatever you're looking at. That creates a thought. That thought leads to a decision. That decision leads to action. That action feeds back into your belief system. And so the question is, where do we jump in and change it? Well, it starts with the belief system. Because I don't care how hard you work. I don't care if you're the strongest, toughest, most physical person in the room. If your belief system tells you that opportunity is fleeting, or tells you that no one in your family's ever done it, so why the heck would you? Or tells you that you don't deserve it, or tells you that you're ordinary. If you got any of that stuff that's going on, it doesn't matter how hard you're going to work. You will consistently have thoughts, make decisions, and take actions that are in alignment with that. We call that, those things I just described, those are the storm belief systems. So to flip the switch is let's go into, and Turkey and I talk about this a lot, is like, you're not going to change this sitting at the side of the rink doing mental visualization. As much as that is important, doing imagery, it's super important, but you're not going to make these changes 9 minutes before the game. This is stuff that you break down, you work on, much like Turkey when he's teaching a kid how to shoot a puck. It's like fundamentals, breakdown, lose all the junk that's in your way, and let's get a crystal clear message so you can start doing that quicker, so you can start getting better results. It's the same thing when we're teaching the mental and the emotional training and helping athletes be the best they can be as hockey players and as people.
Let me add to that. Check this out. You got, what's that jersey you got on there, Ilya? What team is that?
That's the New York Rangers.
Oh boy. So there, I used to work with a player in Tampa, and he ended up going to the Rangers, and he's just a little guy. He's just a little guy with a really tall stick. You know who I'm talking about?
Zook.
You know who I'm talking about?
Zook.
Marty St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis.
So Marty, we have this thing called a sphere. I can't say it right. Sphere. It's like a 3D ball that's around this big area that's around you. And when a player's belief system is at a higher level, that sphere starts to expand. It starts to get bigger and bigger. So I'm going to go back to Marty St. Louis. And usually when a new player who's a old player but ends up being new on a new team, out of courtesy, players will come up, will be like, well, oh boy, Marty St. Louis here. Number one, do I still have a job? I gotta work harder. Do I still have a job because that guy's here? Number two, that little guy might end up on my line. I might be playing with that little guy. I might be playing with him. So out of courtesy, I'm going to go over to this little guy and I'm going to ask him, I'm going to say, hey, Marty, welcome to the Rangers. I might end up on your, where would you like me to pass you the puck? Like how, because players they're courteous, or how do you like, what, where do you play mostly? Like, what do you like? So they start to communicate. Another player comes over, welcome to the Rangers. Hey, Marty, I might be on your line. I just want to know what the things that you like when you're on the ice. If we're on the line, where do you end up? Where do you like to go? Where are you going to be? Where do you want me to pass you the puck? How do you like to receive the puck? Marty's like, guys, grabs his hockey stick and he sticks his arm straight out and he puts a big round and he just pass it to me anywhere in here. I don't care. His sphere of influence just in his that whole belief system just elevated other players' belief system. Because he's like, I don't give a crap where you just get it in my area and I'll take care of it. So that in an athlete can be so contagious to building so much more success mentally in players by one player coming in and saying, listen, man, I don't have to have it right on my tape. I don't care I'm going to help you to help me to help you. So that belief system is so critical. I get in trouble for saying that word because I don't know, but it's so important for athletes to try and build off of. But if you're not observing as a player, as a coach, as a parent, then it's going to be really difficult for you to recognize or dissect what needs to be helped within all the individuals for the team's success.
Thank you, Tim. That makes sense. Dan, I think there's a little bit of feedback from your speaker, so I'm going to mute you in and out just so, when you're talking, so we eliminate the feedback there. But that's such a great point. I have actually a twofold question coming right off the back of that. One is, when you talk about building that belief system, and how can parents really contribute to creating that kind of self-confidence? Because I know Martin St. Louis, if you remember that playoff run when the Rangers made it to the Stanley Cup Finals after his mom passed away, he was the fuel that all of a sudden turned the whole series around. They were down, I think, 3-1 in the series, and then all of a sudden his mother passes away. He comes back, plays like a monster, right? Scores a goal, and everybody just kind of follows that energy all the way into the Stanley Cup final. And then, so the question that I have is, number one, is how do coaches and parents recognize the best role for their child or their athlete on a team, especially when they're playing a team sport? And secondly, again, how do you create that kind of confidence in your kid?
Well, I love Turkey's analogy of the sphere, right? Because that's leadership, right? Marty St. Louis' ability to go and score goals and really put the team on his back is leadership. Leadership is one of the opportunity belief systems, right? So Marty St. Louis is coming into that rink, into that room, and that comment he's making, it's the underpinning of it is it's leadership. It's like, guys, man, I'm just like you. Your passes don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I'm going to go and work hard. I got a really good objective. I got a really good focus on what we need to do as a team. Let's just all go out there and do our best thing, and we'll ebb and flow. We'll win, we'll lose. It'll be a process, and and that alleviates, that empowered belief or that opportunity belief can literally affect in the short term, can have positive effects on the people around you. And so here's one of the ways you do it. Ilya, this is a great example, and I throw this out to you because you're coaching, and I'd be happy to support you and your team and your parents this way. The number one thing I say to teams all the time, especially minor hockey and junior teams, is have you sat down with the key stakeholders? So when the kids are younger, it means mom and dad, aunt and uncle, whoever the guardians are. And when the kids are older and they're playing junior, it obviously includes the players, could also include the billet families, right? Who are the stakeholders in those players? And we sit down, and at the start of the year, we lay out a team development plan that looks like goal setting. It looks like short-term, long-term goals. It's talking about belief system. It's all about building confidence in kids, because the number one way that you build a confidence in a hockey player is you give them achievable goals and you give them the tools to achieve them, and then you celebrate when they achieve them. I mean, it's a real simple process. Think about it when you're a kid, right? If you did something and you got a slap on the wrist or you got told bad, then you never, you had a pain associated with doing that thing. So you wouldn't do it again. But you do something and you get a pat on the back and it's great, then you start to build that message of I'm doing good things. And so it's sitting down at the start of the year, and the start of the year can be any time. For some coaches, it's like when they learn that there's these tools available, and we sit down and we do a team development session where we literally map out what's going on for the players, what are their goals and objectives, what's the goal and objective of the team, and how do we find the alliance to mesh those together? Because what does that produce? That produces leadership. Every single player in the room and parents, all the stakeholders understand they have the opportunity and they have the responsibility to lead in their respective lane. For some guys like Turkey, he's going to do his magic. That's going to make our team better. I'll walk in the room, I'll bring my magic. It will also make the team better. But if you as a coach haven't lined out and given us Turkey and I the opportunity to own where our greatness is, then you might miscast us. You may have us in the wrong seat, which is all that's going to produce is negative confidence, and it's going to affect all of us as players and people.
Great
Great point.
Yeah.
Really good point. Yeah, though that's well said. It's recognizing. It's recognizing, but you can't recognize without opening up your eyes, opening up your ears, and observing, just what is needed. And to Dan's point, I know what I specialize in, and I just went through a whole I'm using Dan as a mentor because he's got the word freaking author in front of his name, and I'm like, hey, I got to do that too, hey, well, so what I'm getting at is this book company wants me to write about skating and off ice and mental preparation, and I'm thinking to myself, can I do that? Yeah, I can do that, maybe in 2 words. But my specialty is I know what it is, so that's what I focus on, and so if a coach is out there thinking, I'm not taking away things. Some coaches, we talked about this, some have the ability to coach and teach. Some of them have that ability. Knowing when to do that is just as important as how to do it. But if you're a coach and you're not listening to the parents of what they feel the needs are, you're not listening to the players, or you're not trying to expand and evolve with things and how the game is being played based on your chess set, on your team, on your players, then it's going to be, so you got to observe. You got to listen, man. It's okay to plan and have a mission. It's okay to have the bus in one direction, or the boat, or staying on the wave, whatever you want to call it. But you have to be open-minded nowadays. As I'm talking the athletes all the way up through to the parent, to the organization, to the coaches, to everyone out there to if you don't want to build your ammunition, or you don't want to accept someone's suggestion, you don't, in my opinion, you're not going to expand.
Yeah, excellent point. And I think, flexibility as we coach is so important these days. To your point, Tim, when we're coaching, we can't just be one directional, right? A lot of times, we don't want to create a robotic response from a child, right? Where they just do what you tell them to do, and they're afraid to go right or left. They're afraid to make creative moves or decisions because they're afraid of making a mistake. And we see it over and over again where people are coming in and coaches and parents, and they just they want to see like a one track kind of direction, and it kind of locks the athlete in. It almost it's almost detrimental to their development. And then you're trying to say, hey, as a defenseman, don't just dump the puck every time you touch it. Speed up with it, take a couple of steps, make a move. Maybe if you're on the blue line, don't just throw it right the net. Go, skate backwards, get the puck on your stick, put a nice pass into, one of the forwards, or, take a shot, but make sure it's creative. Make sure you're thinking about what you're doing and having a purpose. I always tell my kids when I coach is that, you got to move the puck with purpose. You got to have a reason on the ice. So when you do something, you got to know why you're doing it. And like, we could talk about on the bench, and we could, I could tell you there was a better option or whatever. I was like, but you have to have a decision. You have to make that decision on the ice.
But coach, I was passing to little Billy there, and I needed to ease up on it to make sure he controls it. I needed to make sure I had to go softly because I wasn't sure if he was going to control it or not. But it got intercepted for a goal down the other way. Oops, I'm sorry, coach. But so what a good point. Have a purpose when you're passing. Force that player to have to adjust their tension rate control and their mindset to be able to control that hard pass every single time.
Yeah, excellent. And so I had sorry, Dan, did you want to add something?
No, I just think, it just lends itself back into this, these handcuffs, that we put around our kids, right? Like the only reason that's we'll call it a bad pass and it turns out to be a goal in the back of your net is because we're wired that, now we're angry because the other team's winning 1-0. When maybe, the greatest gift that player received was learning what not to do in the future, which will pay dividends down the road, when there's more on the line, and gives that player the confidence to be like, oh yeah, you know what? Like I did a pass and it didn't work out, but man, I really learned from that. And then the impact that has on them as a person of like, you know what, in my life, in my world, when I make a mistake, it's not the end of the day. It's like, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. I can actually learn from this. I say to our athletes and in my community, and whenever I speak all the time, I have two primary initiatives. Is that I want to share our Pillars of Greatness program. This content, everything I'm sharing is from our Pillars of Greatness program. We have this incredible online program, coaching program called Building the Complete Athlete. And it's totally about helping you be the best badass hockey player on the ice, on the right team at the highest level to crush your dreams. It's also about helping you be a complete player so that you're crushing it in every aspect of your life. And so my goal is twofold. One is I want to inspire 1 million hockey players a year through this curriculum. And the second thing I want to do is I want to change how we define failure. Because when we do that, we will change not only the game and how players play it, but we will change how they see themselves in the ecosystem of a team, the ecosystem in their family, and the ecosystem of whatever they do out there in the world. And so, I just, when I see little Johnny making what we deem as a bad pass, it's like, wow, let's look at the amazing opportunity here on how little Johnny could grow and how this will impact him as a player and as a person.
Great point. I actually have a question from parents that I got over the weekend, and so over last weekend. So the question is, why do I get so frustrated with the coaches, refs, teammates, and what's the best way for a parent to handle that frustration so that the parent can support the child and help them grow?
That's Dan.
I think I'm just switching. I'm switching my mics here, so maybe we'll eliminate the feedback. So bear with me. This comes down to the question I say to parents all the time is like, what's your objective? Like, what is it that matters most to you about this game? Like that one game in particular, or the game as a whole? Like, what is it that you care the most about? Because your frustration as a mom or a dad will filter down to your son. And like I said before about belief systems, to me, it's more important than the game. What you're teaching your son or daughter, you're building their belief system. You're showing them how to act, how to react, how to evolve and grow through moments and through situations. So I say to parents all the time, so like, what's in it for you? I mean, let's be honest, right? And when I do a team success session, which is what I referred to before, Ilya, when I come in and we do the goal setting, these are the hard, honest, sincere conversations we have with the parents and players. Is like, mom and dad, what's in it for you? Like, what's on the downside for you? Maybe your colleagues playing on the other team and you want to be able to, walk into the next board meeting and feel good about yourself. Well, that says everything about you. Don't pass that on to Johnny or to Susie. So let's have some real honest conversation. And what is your frustration about? And if your frustration is that your son or daughter isn't working hard, okay, well then let's talk about that. If your frustration is that your son or daughter doesn't have the skill, okay, let's talk about that. If your frustration is that the coach isn't playing your son or daughter, then let's talk about that. But having this blanket about, oh, I'm frustrated because, and not being willing to look at what's in the root of your frustration, is just going to exacerbate the entire experience on the team, and B, certainly isn't going to help your son or daughter be a better hockey player.
I think that in my experience, when it comes to the parental side of things, usually what's going on there is there's an evaluation taking place. So the parents evaluating the coach, what decisions they're making, the parents evaluating the officials or the referees and the decisions that they're making. What they need to do is they have to try to simulate what's going on at the time they're making the evaluation. So that brings me down to, what if you were an actual athlete and you were a part of a team, then you need to self-evaluate what kind of teammate you were before you can start the frustration process. If you were an official, then you probably wouldn't have a frustration with the officials because you would know what decisions they're making, whether they're in position or out of position. If you were a coach, then you might know what decisions or why, based on that particular coach's mission and belief system to succeed with their children. If you were a coach, you would know. So your frustrations might dissipate a little bit. They might go down if you were one of those people. If you're not one of those people and you're getting frustrated, then you need to evaluate where these are coming from. Are you influenced by other parents around you? Are you influenced by watching NHL hockey? Are you influenced because, like, to Dan's point, you had a bad day, or you got a presentation, or you're not making sales, or you're not meeting criteria at work, or a personal thing in your life or whatever. But the key point, in my opinion, that Dan said was it's there's two separate pieces: the parent and the son or daughter. Never mind that they're an athlete, but in the real world, that's where you're going to live the most. You're going to live there the most, so you got to make that the best place possible.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. I think that's a lot of really important information. And again, if you guys haven't followed Dan and Tim on Facebook and Instagram, you guys need to. I think you guys talk about this stuff all the time, especially when it comes to really having the right mindset as you're going into not just games, but practices and just overall. I want to switch gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about grit versus innate talent. And that goes to I know that's right up your corner because you get to work with both. So why don't you take it away first?
Well, I've officially worked with like 4 or 5 NHL organizations, and that word grit, it comes up quite a bit. It's and the discussions around the grit side of things, it's the consensus about that word grit, and can it be taught? The word grit, there's so many different definitions and so many different belief systems that people have when they're defining that word grit. Whether it's the ability to be hungry for when losing a puck, the ability to push a button in a player that could be more physical because they're just bigger than others. Like you need to play with more grit. So that is for me, that's a really difficult subject to talk about, the aspect of teaching the gritty part of the game. Some people, most of the consensus is it can't be taught and it comes from within. But there are ways where you can challenge athletes to be more physical, to be more outgoing, to be more engaged when they're doing stuff. But that button is pushed and it's got a time limit on it. And then there's the player where you'll push that button and that grit will come out like a bomb goes off because you found out what you can say or what you can challenge that particular athlete or player to do in a certain situation. Then you see that bomb go off and then you're like, you need to play like that all the time. And the player's like, well, I don't have the same situation all the time. So I can't play like that all the time. So I'm kind of caught between a fence line between the ability to teach a player to be more gritty and then finding out how to make that player or what it takes to get that player to become more gritty. But that all comes up top. It all comes, there's so much criteria into that type of player. Now, if you go to Kirk Muller, good buddy of mine, you go to him and you say, hey, you were a gritty player. Can you teach it? He'd be like, no, man, that's just the way I am. I'm just like that. Again, like I can't, there's no switch. It's just like, that's just the person that I am. And that's just an example of an athlete, because you can see separate examples all the time. And your thoughts, Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as you were talking, I jumped on the phone and I pulled up what's the definition of grit, right? So for all your listeners, because it has its different sort of ideology, but the definition here on Wikipedia says grit is determined as a perseverance or passion for long-term goals. It's observed in individuals that have a high amount of grit were able to maintain their determination and motivation over long periods of time despite failure or adversity. And so if we're going to go with that definition, and I don't know if that's what Kirk Muller would say. I mean, a guy that, that grew up playing hockey in the 70s and 80s and 90s might be different than today. To me, teaching perseverance, teaching resiliency is something that we can help our athletes with. Now, will someone who's born with an innate, grit level, and I don't even know if there's a barometer for that, but let's just assume that there is. Will we ever get, that person, that player to that ultimate? I don't know, but I know we can move the needle significantly. And it's driven, I'm talking about it again, it's like a broken record. It's driven by confidence and helping players recognize that, you talk about perseverance. I mean, think about it in your own life. Think about the things that you've given up on and think about the things that you've pushed through. And there was something that happened from the moment when you were about to give up that changed. And then you stayed with it. I don't know, maybe it was a colleague. Maybe you learned a new tool. Maybe you found a great instructor like Tim Turk. Maybe you learned how to shoot the puck with higher degree of accuracy. So you therefore kept playing and you made it, it's worthwhile battling for that loose puck because I know my magic, my reward is going to get into that zone where Turkey taught me to go. And so we can provide players with the tools, with the resources, and give them the support so that we can move the needle to, again, if grit is the measuring stick, that we can move the needle significantly on the grit level.
Great answer, man. That's freaking unbelievable. Are you recording this?
Yeah.
Perfect. I got to get a recording just for that answer. I got to get a copy of that.
Yeah, I love it. I love that because I think that a lot of guys talk about you're and you hear this all the time. You're born a hockey player or you're born a football player. You have this innate talent, and that's why this guy is so good or that guy is so good. It's almost like that. There's a gene that gives them an unfair advantage for being the hardest worker in the room. Like Sidney Crosby, and you watch the way he practices. He's good because the guy spends like 7 hours a day working on his skills. I mean, you can't compare that to a guy who goes out to the movies and hangs out with his girlfriend and then plays 3 times a week and then says, well, how come Sydney can hit that puck off top of the net or shoot that water bottle in the air and I can't? And the answer is pretty much simple. It's the work.
Yeah.
We do have predisposed DNA. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan and Kobe and they have something that someone else doesn't in terms of just their height. But then let's go on the other end of the scale. Let's look at a Muggsy Bogues. Let's look at a Spud Webb. Let's look at an Allen Iverson. Let's right here in Toronto, look at a Kyle Lowry, right? I mean, look at a Fred VanVleet. Like I can also name you a quorum of players that don't map to that ideology and that DNA ancestry. And we, Turkey just talked about Marty St. Louis. I mean, we can Johnny Gaudreau, Brendan Gallagher. I mean, I can have the same conversation on the other end of the spectrum. Going to auto racing, look at Lewis Hamilton, right? He had all the pieces against him. He didn't have the financial upbringing that a lot of other auto racers have had. And look at him now. And so it depends on what side of the belief system that you want to live from. And so do you see the storm? Do you see all of these barriers of entry as reasons why you don't? Or do you find a way, in the David and Goliath analogy, to find a way, like I'm the littlest guy in the room. That means I can slip under the door. That guy, Big Kobe, he can't slide out of the door. I can make a surprise entrance. I can find some weakness in everybody else's arsenal that is a strength of mine, and I can bring it to the table. And this, Turkey talked before. We talked about routines. Right, we talked about rituals. So if my routine is to kind of play hockey and then Ilya, go to the movie and hang out with the boys and hang out with the friends, then you're right. Like, I don't care what your DNA disposition is. You're probably going to underachieve in what you could have achieved had you not gone all in. Versus, I'm going to build solid rituals and I'm going to do this intentionally every single day. And yes, there may be some limitations by my height or by DNA, but that won't be the reason why I don't get there. The reason I don't get there will be based on some other factor.
Great point. And so that brings me to my next question, which is, something that we all have experienced and we all do is the drive to the game, from the game, right? What do you talk about on a drive to and from the game? If you had to pick a topic or two that you would recommend for the parents to kind of hone in on, do you talk about the game or what happened, or do you talk about something completely off the wall and not related to the game or what the athletic situation?
You know what? I think that I'm like, are we going for a Big Mac with extra sauce? But all joking aside, like a suggestion that I've been making to parents for a long time now is just let the athlete, no matter how old they are, let them talk about how they feel they did. Like just sit back and open up your ears as a parent. I would suggest asking them how they felt they did today. And then if you feel positive vibes coming out of those answers, you're going to reinforce it with support. If you feel negative vibes coming out of those answers, you're going to try and turn them into positives for the next time they go out, so that, number one, you're going to keep that athlete interested in what they're doing and the decisions that they're making is right for them. So try and listen more. You can add, as a parent, you can add some information. You can have some feedback as to what you thought they did. But that, I'm telling you, the athlete will only hear specifically from the parent the negative stuff, and that'll stick with them more than the positive stuff will. So you got to be as positive as possible when you're listening to your son or daughter give you feedback on how they feel they did. And I'm telling you, in my experience, a 5-year-old can tell you how they think they did if you ask the right questions to them. So that would be my suggestion, is try and keep especially Dan brought up this evolution of, players playing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now, when you fast forward and evolve to how the game has evolved, not just the athlete and the upbringing of people, but how the game has evolved. Now you got to be as positive as possible. Like yelling at someone for the sake of giving them your opinion is not going to stick anywhere. It doesn't matter how good the glue is. It ain't going to stick. But if you're giving some sort of suggestive, corrective feedback to your son or daughter, and you finish with a positive and take them for an ice cream, or take for a Big Mac, or take them for, well, I don't know, like a Baconator with extra bacon and cheese, but whatever that's going to be, like it's going to finish off positive, and then they're going to want to reinforce hopefully the rituals that they're doing, and it's so important to me that those plans can stay in place and they're positive ones.
Yeah, man, I love it. I'm with Turkey 1 billion%. I say to parents all the time, get in the car after the game and ask your son or daughter, how do you feel? Right? Because more than the game, like it's this little being, it's this little creature that's coming in the car. And when I say this little being, right, when we're 29 years old and we play the game with everything we got, we're just a kid. Like we're so immersed in what we're doing. We're literally just this vessel that's trying with every fiber of who we are. So whatever age they are, how do you feel? Right? That's when we get plugged into the mental and the emotional well-being, growth, evolution of a player. That's where we want all of our kids to be, is to be in that place of strength. And I give parents this analogy. I say, you're either going to be a caregiver or you're going to be a caretaker. And a caregiver is you give the control of the conversation over to your kids, and you are there for their care. A caretaker takes over control and cares more about what you have to say than what the other person, in this case, what your child actually needs or what they might want to hear. And so stop being the one that takes control and give it back to your kids and let them tell you how they feel. Because I'll tell you right now, it's more important to hear how your son or daughter felt about the play than it is the play itself. Like that is where the true evidence, the true information lies, because that's where we can plug in and support them, because they may have a whole story about I made the mistake and the whole team thinks I'm a loser, and that means I am a loser and I'm never going to play this game again. And from this point on, right? And that's what's happening for the kid, and you're busting his chops because you want him to make a better pass or the saucer, like that he's not even there. And so it's their game. Allow them to be the ones that take control and share the information, and then you care for them where they're at.
I love that. And I got to say that, I think every parent or coach, and including myself, have been guilty of riding the kids or too much, and just going overboard sometimes. But the thing that I want to say is that I learned, as my coaching career progressed, that that doesn't work, right? That riding and constantly reiterating the same points and kind of adding that negativity does not work, right? As you progress, I think that it's never too late for a parent or a coach to switch gears and to become better. So I just wanted to throw it out there because it happened to me, in my, when I just started coaching, and the frustrations that I felt on the bench, sometimes making the game about me, even though I'm not on the ice, as a coach. And then, but I'm lucky enough to have the mentors and listening to you guys now. I hope that there's a lot of coaches that coming into the game today that listen to this and say, hey, that makes sense. Like I could take that away and maybe change the approach that I have on the bench going forward.
And let me add this too is, guys, we're like the players, like parents, like our parents. We're human, right? We make mistakes. And I love to hear that, Ilya, that there's been times where you've pushed a player too hard, you were riding them, because I believe that's coming from a place of passion. And in that moment, it's like this game of hockey is such an incredible experience. Like, it's such a phenomenal journey. I don't care what level you play at. Play men's pickup for the first time, or you're skating in Game 7 to win the Stanley Cup final. Like, it doesn't matter. That feeling of scoring a goal is an experience that you can only feel by actually doing it. And it could be ball hockey, scoring on your 9-year-old kid, right? There's something that happens to us emotionally that the synapses in our brains, like, we just love that. And so, and I believe that's true when we're coaching, right? We're in that moment. And because we are human, when I was coaching, at the start of every pregame, I called it housekeeping. And it was an opportunity for anybody in the room, coaches included, to make an amends for something they said or did the last time we were together. And so, parents, coaches, please be humble enough that when you F up, the greatest gift you can give your players, the leadership you can give them, is to stand before them and acknowledge that you made a mistake and apologize. And recognize what you did and make an amends for that, whether it be to a specific player or was to a moment in time. It is such a powerful experience where our kids get to see, like, oh my God, if Coach Ilya apologizes, and then that means that then I can apologize. It's safe. I'm not going to be made fun of. I'm not going to get beaten down because I made a mistake. We have to lead that as coaches. And so, to everybody watching out there, parents included, when you trip up and you pull a bonehead move like I do, I just ask my daughters, it happens on the regular, take that moment, have the courage to stand in your discomfort and acknowledge you made a mistake and that you're committed to doing something different.
Great point. Thank you so much, Dan.
That's, you know what, that's how you finish a podcast right there.
Yeah, I did want to mention that since Dan brought up the ball hockey junior Rangers programs, there's ball hockey going on now. So if you want to get scored on, go join up. We actually did a wonderful event yesterday in Norwalk, Connecticut with Anson Carter and Tom Waidlaw and the Rangers programs. It was absolutely free. We set up 2 blow-up rinks. They were extremely heavy, and we had to set it up and then move it. But just a wonderful event all day. And kids coming in from different age groups from school, like gym class. And we played ball hockey with them. We kind of talked a little bit about what hockey is and stuff like that. It was so great to see that happening. So if you guys haven't checked out the Junior Rangers and all the wonderful things that these guys do, it's unbelievable. I think they set the standard for the youth, bringing the kids into the game. And so definitely, please check them out. Wargate Hockey, our sponsor. Remember, again, the protection for your face if you want to keep your teeth. Great stuff. I actually got hit with a puck in the face on Thursday.
Did it hurt?
Well, I had my cage on and my visor from Wargate, so it saved me. But I would have probably been missing a couple and talking like this if I didn't have it. So I'm lucky that I use their products, and I'm a huge supporter of it. So if you guys want to check them out, there's the link if you want to get the cage and the visor. So just look it up. And then lastly, I just want to mention Howie's tape. They are also on board here. So Howie's will give you 10% off if you guys need some tape or anything from them. Just use the code Podolskiy10, Podolskiy 10. And so then, Tim, I usually end with 3 questions that you both already answered for me. So I have different 3 questions for you. So we'll start with, I guess, Tim, and then Dan. Here's my number 1. Can you name one pregame routine or ritual that you would recommend every athlete does?
Yeah, proper nutrition. I would say proper nutrition for my first one. That could affect it. The fuel that you're putting into your body is going to help you to perform. I'll leave it at that, because if you look, I've heard so many nutritionalists say, if you look after your body will look after you. You know, whether you're in a relaxed mode or you're in a competition mode. So I would say one for me would be nutrition.
Yeah, I love it. I think nutrition, hydration is also super important. I would also say too, you know, use your, you know, for the athletes that we work with is just do like a mental walkthrough of your belief systems. You know, what do you bring into the rink? Like, what is it? What is going to get in your way mentally and emotionally on that game, leading into that on ice performance, and then use some tools and strategies to make sure that you're on the right path so that you are locked in on the opportunity rather than the worry of the storm.
Yeah, that word you used, Daniel, imagery, you know, visualization is so huge. Yeah, that's good. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And then question 2 is, last time we talked about the 3 things parents should do, you know, when raising athletes. So why don't this time you talk about the 3 things they should not do when they're raising an athlete? Again, Tim, if you want to take
You know,
over.
like the first thing that comes to mind is interference, you know, with their preparation process. You know, if there's going to be a communication aspect, there's got to be all support in there. So don't interfere with how they're getting ready. Let them have their own ritual way to get set up or get prepared. Number one. A third thing would be start thinking about how you're going to communicate. Don't communicate normal the way that you normally would. Change it up a little bit. You know, they have variety in the way that you discuss things when you're talking to your athlete. Just to Dan's point, let them be the ones to decide how they feel, and let them communicate that with you. And the third one that I feel they shouldn't do is have an influence on the type of equipment that the player feels is better for them. You know, like whether it's even though a CCM stick doesn't fit little Johnny's or Susie's hands, but that's what they want because their favorite player uses a CCM product, a Warrior, or in my case, it should be a True one, a True stick. Everyone should be using True. I'm just kidding. But that don't interfere in their preparation. You know, like change up your delivery, have variety in it, and don't interfere in the types of equipment that they feel they want to use, not just the cheap ones.
Great.
Yeah, I think stop telling them where you think they should play, either positionally or at a certain level. Stop using the wins and losses of a game or of a season as the barometer of how well they are or aren't doing, and stop looking at the evolution of your athlete as a physical only development model. Stop looking at those 3 things, and you will make a demonstrative difference in how your son or daughter experiences the game, how they grow through the game, and how they perform in the game.
I love that. And so the last question here is for you guys, you know, who was your role model growing up and why? Tim,
Oh man, like when I talk about role model, I talk about teaching, and this is kind of like off the cuff. And I was thinking about this actually the other day. There's a guy out there. I don't know, Dan, you might know Michael Cicero. I don't know if you know him. He's a
goalie guy.
Michael Cicero is he's the guy that got my start when I was really, really young. And I call him a role model because of back in those times when we were doing teaching, you know, that was the times where you would grab a player's face mask and you could kind of rattle him around a little bit if he did something wrong on the negative side of things. Well, Michael Cicero, for me, the way he delivered and the way he expressed and his energy, the types of ways he delivered when he was teaching, how he just influenced his athletes, goalies. He influenced them on so many levels that they didn't realize they were being influenced on. And I just remember saying to myself, and I still do today, what is it that I can say that can make a difference in anyone's life whether it's a motion pattern, a thought process, or a decision-making process. What can because I know things that I say sticks. So I'm constantly wanting to send the right messages in different ways to different athletes so that it makes a difference in their life. Not so they become a better athlete, but a combination of improving as an athlete and ready to take on the real world when it's time.
I love that. Yeah, I know Michael Cicero. He's been at this a long time too. And that's beautiful. For me, it's my would have been my grade 10 history teacher. I grew up with a dad who struggled with alcoholism and had mental health issues, and undiagnosed. Right back in the 80s and 90s, you didn't walk into your doctor's office and say, "Hey, I got thoughts in my head." I mean, they'd throw you in a rubber room and put you on lithium. You'd never hear from you again, right? So my dad literally, he limped his way through life using alcoholism as a tool, a sedative to numb his pain, and the impact that had on me and my brother was significant. But I call this, in my book I wrote about, I call it my Mardinger moment. This is my history teacher was Mr. Mardinger, and he was so influential on me because he saw me. This is what Tim talked about. He saw me. He didn't fly my flag because I had good marks. He didn't criticize me when I didn't have the right marks. He saw me. Like it was grade 10. It was homeroom. It was first class of the day, Monday to Friday, that entire year. And he saw me. Like he would talk about it. He says, "I can see something in you, Blackburn." He says, "I know you're going to be," now he guessed wrong. He said, "You're going to be selling insurance," but he saw me, right? Like he saw Dan Blackburn beyond the jersey I was wearing or the shirt I had on or how I was with my friends or not with my friends, whether I was in the principal's office or I wasn't. Like he saw me for who I was, and he validated me for being that person, period. End of sentence. And that had a historic moment, a historic impact on me in those moments, because it showed me for the first time a male figure who showed up every day, who brought his everything he could to his classrooms, and he saw me for who I was. He knew when I was in the room, and he knew when I wasn't in the room. And that in itself, I don't know a lot about history. I don't remember a lot of the history. The old story goes, it's not about what you do. It's about how you make people feel. And I've reached out to him in Facebook and a number of times and shared this with him. And so, yeah, my Mardinger moment in grade 10, it was the first time as a young male that I actually saw that I was worthy of being noticed. That, like, me being in the room, someone saw me just for being me. And that completely transformed my life.
That's
Awesome.
yeah, that's such great points, guys, because I think that, when you talk about teachers being your role models, I have the same experience. I had a high school wrestling coach, Paul Quiet. I'll mention him if he's watching, but he was unbelievable. He was that role model for me. I was also growing up without a father. I came here, migrated to the States at 11. My dad never came. He stayed in Russia. And so, coming here and being on this wrestling team and seeing this man who, again, believed in me, from being the freshman and the worst guy on the team to going to like junior and senior year where I was more of, had more of a role and more of a leadership role in the team and being really ingrained into the culture of that group. I think that transition is, all, to how he viewed it and how he coached, how he always showed up, and he was always there. So great points, guys. I know you guys are busy, and I know you guys are just, thank you so much for coming on. Again, thumbs up for the teachers. My wife is a teacher, and she just wanted to put it out there. Thank you. We could do it without them, and I think when you become a teacher, you give a part of yourself to the kids and to everyone around you. So it takes a certain type of character. So hopefully we encourage some more people to join the ranks. But again, thank you guys so much for coming on. I think we gotta do a whole series of these because there's so many things that we need to talk about and share. And again, if you guys have not followed Dan or Tim, make sure you do, because there's an abundance of information, and it's accessible, and everybody just should be doing it. So
Right. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it, Ilya. Anytime. I do this anytime.
thank you so
Booyah.
much,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you. Booyah.
Yeah.
Right.
Booyah to all you guys and all the listeners and viewers. Thanks for hanging out with us. And yeah, anytime. Let's team up again.
Wonderful.
Right
Thank
on.
you, guys. Have a great weekend.
You
Booyah.
too. Yeah. See you guys. See you, Dan. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Take care,
Okay, see
Turkey.
ya.
See you, Ilya.